In today's episode, the Lada Samara. Hello and welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel, the channel that brings you car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s. So if you're interested in this niche subject of looking at car brochures, if you're just interested in cars in general and like seeing these vehicles that bring back all the memories, then please do consider subscribing. It is completely free. So yes, today's episode, Lada Samara. So here it is in the Lada Samara. Now this particular brochure has kind of like jumped the queue in a way. Members have kind of like, well, if you're a member, you kind of like sometimes get a bit of a sneak peek of some of the brochures I may be doing. A lot of people said, let's have a look at these Lada brochures. Well, this is Lada Canada, so yeah, surprising Lada came to Canada as well. So if that's what members want to look at, I'm sure a lot of you also want to look at Ladas, so therefore we're doing a Lada brochure today. At the top here it says, a new choice for Canada and right for the times, Samara. Now Samara was a bit of an updated Lada really, from what we would have known as the Lada Riva. Actually, I much preferred these earlier Ladas, I must admit, and particularly in estate or wagon form. I think they were pretty interesting vehicles, the Lada Riva. So yeah, it updated. It certainly looked a lot more modern than these, although actually in this particular sheet, it's actually referring to this as the Lada Signet 5-door station wagon. So maybe in Canada these were known as the Signet rather than the Riva. But yeah, going back, we might actually come back to this and do this another day actually. But yes, the Lada Samara was certainly an update from the cars. I think really just to widen the audience for Lada, for something that certainly looks more fitting for this time period, 1988, this brochure is. So certainly looked more fitting for the time period. It looked like a more modern car and therefore should in theory attract more customers. But unfortunately for Lada, people really didn't buy Ladas for an updated car. They bought Ladas because they were cheap and cheerful, really sold very much on price. These models upped the price a bit and I don't think people were quite as taken to them in many ways. Now, like we said, this is a Canadian brochure. At the bottom here it says Lada Canada. So certainly we'll see if there are any differences or anything springs out that's vastly different from the UK Lada Samaras. I believe this is an earlier Samara though. At first I was thinking, oh, maybe Canada got a different grille treatment, but it's just like the pre-facelift model, I think. So quite an early one, this. Interesting wheels. I don't know if they're alloys or not. We'll have a look at the specs later on. I think these black bumpers certainly age it rather than being like a colour coordinated bumper, but nevertheless it was certainly a move forward for Lada. Anyway, let's open the brochure up, have a look inside. So it's a 4-sided sheet, this one, so it's not going to be a particularly long episode, but there's some nice little details, some nice little images of this model. Incidentally, we talked about membership and the members saw this brochure first and said, let's have a look at that one properly. If you do want to become a member, it is less than £1 to join, so a very cheap membership. You don't get a great deal, but sometimes you get sneak peeks, so have a look on the homepage if you're interested in that. Anyway, let's start up here, read the text, and we'll kind of like work our way around this unusual brochure. Of course, how it's always been with Lada, really they're selling these cars on price, so more car for your money is how they're describing it as. There's only one way to truly define value, a word you hear a lot these days in the car business. Value is determined by how much car you get for your money. That makes the Lada Samara an unbeatable value. Many of the Samara standard features are extra cost options on other cars. You can spend a lot more money, but you won't get a better car. And then we get this rather nice side shot of the car. The pictures aren't the best quality, I must admit. They are a little bit grainy. Let's try and zoom in a little bit further though. Certainly an interesting wheel, this sort of shiny wheel that looks very unusual on the Samara. I don't think we got that wheel and tyre choice in the UK, but certainly correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember that at all. Doesn't look like we've got any rubbing strips. They look like we're just stripes on this model. Anyway, let's move down. It's telling it's built to last. The driving force behind the front wheel drive Lada Samara has been to make it last. From concept through design and construction and the most grueling all-weather testing in the world, armouring the lower body with zinco metal and epoxide undercoat, plus literally thousands of corrosion-proofing operations in building and painting, ensure the Samara will withstand the harshest of Canadian winters. In fact, you could say Samara is built with Canadian driving in mind. We're going to peep on the inside. Actually, not a bad looking interior, actually. That possibly looks a little bit more 70s than 80s, but yeah, I quite like the seats. Interesting steering wheel. Very simple design though. We don't look like we get a rev counter. And there's our bit of a front end shot. It doesn't even look like we get a passenger door mirror. It continues by telling us it's a driver's delight. First impressions are what grab your performance from a peppy 1.3 overhead cam engine and a slick 5-speed overdrive transaxle. Samara sure-footed handling and precise control, the contributions of the McPherson strut front suspension and rack and pinion steering, and the confidence-inspiring brakes. A diagonal braking system with power-assisted front discs and self-adjusting rear drums. But in the long run, what holds you is the Samara's penny-pinching fuel economy, 6.3 litres per 100 kilometres, or 45.6 miles per gallon in combined city highway driving, and low-cost servicing and maintenance. Virtually every system and component, from its lubed for life front and rear wheel bearings to its no-service battery, was designed to save you money and fuss in the long run. And then we get a little bit of a sort of family holiday type image showing us it's a practical hatchback, but if you notice, it's got more of the sort of 70s very high sill to lift things into. So even though it looks more like a more modern thing for Lada, in some ways it's still quite an elderly design. It continues by telling us the right size for today. It tells us although compact and aerodynamically shaped outside, Samara's roominess and comfort come as a delightful surprise. Imagine 5 adults can ride in solid comfort, and rear seat passengers don't have to twist themselves into odd shapes to get in and out. The already generous cargo space more than doubles when the rear seat back is folded down. So I think that's quite an unusual, quite a weird thing to say on what is a 3-door car. You know, it's good for 5 people and rear seats don't have to contort themselves to get into the back, when obviously it's not going to be that easy to get into the back as it is. No rear doors. But anyway, that's how they've chose to advertise it. Let's have a look on the back page. That takes us to the back page then for the 1988 Lada Samara features and specifications, so we can see if it does differ at all from the UK models. Standard features then a 1.3 4-cylinder OHC engine, 5-speed manual transmission, full lift-up rear door, front power disc brakes, Goodyear all-season steel-belted radial tyres, large rectangular quartz halogen headlights, remote control headlight pitch adjuster, reclining front bucket seats, adjustable headrests, fold down rear seat, trip odometer, 2-speed electric windshield washer wipers, rear window washer wiper, rear window defroster, warning lights for brake fluid, handbrake, fuel, oil pressure, choke, steering column mounted turn signals, lights and washer wiper control, remote adjustable left and right side mirrors, 3-point inertia seat belts front and rear, 3-speed heating and ventilation flow-through system, glove box, dash-mounted parcel tray, gauges for fuel temperature and voltage, centre console, day-night mirror, carpeting, map pockets, cigarette lighter, 3-year 80,000 kilometre warranty, 5-year anti-rust perforation warranty, dealer installed options, sports styled mag locking wheels. Okay, so those wheels are an option. Sound systems, air conditioning and floor mats. Specifications: so 4-cylinder inline 1.3 OHC overhead camshaft, 5-speed manual overdrive transmission, rack and pinion steering, suspension, front independent McPherson struts, rear crossbeam with trailing arms, horsepower 65 at 6500 RPM, top speed 148 kilometers an hour, which is 90 miles per hour, acceleration 0 to 100 or 0 to 60 miles per hour in 14.5 seconds. Fuel economy, highway city combined 6.32 litres per 100 kilometres or 45.6 miles per gallon. Brakes are disc front, drums rear, dual circuit system, vacuum boosted. Tyres, Goodyear all season steel belted radials, 165 by 70 R13. Body type, unibody 3-door hatchback. Layout, front wheel drive, engine mounted transversely in front. Wheelbase, 97 inches. Track, 54.8 inches. Front, rear, 53.3 inches. Length, 158.1 inches. Width, 69.1 inches. And height, 52.7 inches. This little square is where your dealer stamp would normally go if anyone had actually stamped it. At the bottom here saying, you know, the model's probably got options on there above standard and we can change things at any time. Then we get a bit of warranty information like it's told us already, but not a bad 3-year 80,000 kilometre mechanical warranty, I don't think. Lada Canada protects all vehicles and warranties, high standards of maintenance and repairs and performance proving parts and accessories. At final assembly at also port in Halifax, up to 30% Canadian content goes into Lada vehicles. Lada Canada provides owners and service and Lada line parts through a coast-to-coast network of Lada trained authorised service personnel. And just before that, below that, I mean, it just says printed in Canada, and then we've got a little bit of a Lada Canada and then the Lada badge. There we go, the interesting Lada Samara brochure. An interesting one. Certainly comment if you actually own one. How did you actually get on with these budget conscious cars? I did always prefer the model that came before it though, the Lada Riva, although like it says here, the Lada Signet, which is what it must have been known as in Canada. I did prefer those actually, but certainly let me know your thoughts and feelings, and then maybe next time we'll have a look at this Lada Riva, Lada Signet on the next episode. But thank you so much for watching. We'll end as we always do by saying, please do consider subscribing. It is all completely free. You'll never be charged to be a subscriber. So have a look at that. And thank you so much to all those who are subscribers. It really does help show that there are people interested in this niche subject. Anyway, we'll end with this lovely image of the Samara. And here I'll put a couple more videos here if you want to continue your viewing pleasure. Over 800 episodes. So I'm sure there's an episode even for the long-termers who haven't seen yet. I know the older episodes are very hard to get to though. Unfortunately, that's just how YouTube shows it. But for everyone else, like I say, I'm sure there would be lots more for you. And in fact, there are other Lada episodes in the back catalogue as well. But thank you so much for watching. Please do take care. We'll see you again very soon. All the best and goodbye.